You're listening to DraftKings Network.
You know that sound. It's the sound of money hitting your Venmo account, a friend paying you back, or maybe it's getting cash back from your favorite business when you pay with the Venmo debit card, or it's realizing you can pay with Venmo at checkout at thousands of brands. Now, there are so many more ways to answer the question, what's your Venmo? Download Venmo today. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. pursuant to license by MasterCard International Incorporated. Dosh cashback terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Dan Le Batard.
At one point, you had gone public saying you had a sex addiction, right?
No.
Stugotz.
He cost them the game last night. Although they won the game. But had they lost, I'm telling you, it would have been on LaMarcus Aldridge.
20 mediocre years.
I'm doing a thing! Stu! I'm doing a thing!
We were to play
Predator!
This is the oral history of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz.
In both rummaging around in our past over some things with Stugotz and Mike Ryan that we haven't talked about or covered before until we did this oral history, and also revisiting, listening to some of the oral history and enjoying that, I realized that up to now in the story, there's been far more misery than there should be for a thing that is having success and feeling like it is growing and getting bigger. There are a lot of growing pains in this, but this episode is going to concentrate on what comes closest, I would say, for me, to feeling like a blissfully confident time. I don't think I can say the same thing for Mike Ryan because he was running interference between me and other people in a way that he had learned to be not just protective, but also, Stugotz, one of the interesting things about it is for me to not know when and how he was being protective so that I didn't actually feel the unrest from our bosses at all. Like Mike was dealing with stuff that
Mike did a good job of disguising it.
I remember this as a happy time because, okay, you're going to actually give me freedom. There aren't going to be problems. I'm going to get what my people want as a time slot and a work experience, and we're more comfortable. And now we start soaring. We start growing. We have the power of Disney and a big time slot, and we are invigorated by it creatively.
Super invigorated by it. We were really pushing ourselves creatively, and we had this whole new sandbox with the video element, which we were growing in confidence with, that allowed us to do not necessarily video first executions, but video supplement. We were always keenly aware that we didn't want to alienate the audio audience, which was at this point really growing. We made the move in middays for a lot of reasons. Number one for me with a bullet was life balance, but number two was I think the show can get much bigger, not just because it's getting more clearance, but because our podcast, we're a digital first property. That's how most of our audience consumes us. If we get to market earlier, I just know we're going to see that bear out over the podcast numbers, and it did. We were a podcast sensation. We were the biggest thing in sports podcasting, all while ESPN really knew very little about podcasting and how to monetize it, but we were crushing it.
But Mike, explain that to the audience, because we used to put the podcast out after we were done with the afternoon show, so they were getting it at 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. You're saying putting that episode out, the podcast episode, at 1:30 was a big advantage for us.
It's a couple of things here that make for wonderful timing and a cool part of the story. This becomes a podcast property of significance without us having any support around us that's real from any of the people who are running anything. I'm not talking about ESPN. I'm talking about in our entire history.
Right.
They don't know what to do with this thing. They don't know how to value the changing marketplace that makes us an audio sensation, and they don't know how to measure either the relationship that gets built in the intimacy of people are able to consume you on their own time in lonely jobs, when they're jogging, their exercise, when they want to get away from errands or whatever. You're following them around in their life now in a way that's not just in the car.
It was the single biggest bet that we made as a show.
No
the
doubt.
decision to prioritize digital audio when you made your money not driving people away from the commercials. You made your money having people sit in their cars through those commercials. Single biggest bet that we ever made. It was what we were best positioned for because we always had a keen understanding of where the industry was going. And to have this move coincide with this huge podcast boom that we were at the forefront of, it immediately paid dividends on a huge bet because it didn't come without risk.
At the forefront accidentally, I would say you were protecting things.
I think that short sells like how strategic we were.
When I say accidentally,
we didn't stumble into this.
No, but wait. When I say accidentally, it's because when you don't have support of any of the people who are paying you,
ESPN
and you're undercutting the main ways they make money with the decisions you're making. We are fighting for something that matters to us and mattered to Mike specifically more than it did to me and Stugotz, who grew up in a different time. So that's why I say accidentally. I'm fighting for what Mike Ryan believes in just because he believes in it. It's not because I'm a lot better than all these other executives and seeing what the future looks like.
But we've always followed Mike Ryan because he's younger, because he cares about us, because he knows the industry. Like, you're right. You and I just wanted to speak into a microphone and do radio. I had no idea that people wanted to listen on their own time.
On ESPN, though, what had already happened is Bill Simmons had come and gone as somebody who pioneered this particular space, and they didn't know how to interact with that either, which they had, before they had us.
Yeah, they accidentally stepped into a lot of digital audio success because of our hard work, our decisions, our occasional fighting to keep this RSS feed alive. The RSS feed that you're listening to right now is the one that we created back in 790 in the bowels of Miami Gardens. It came with us through ESPN.
I saved it 7 times.
You never actually did, and it followed us. And we were very strategic with this, and we were constantly trying to get podcast exclusive content.
You were very strategic with this.
Well, I was strategic with it, but me and my production team, the shipping container, editing the podcast was a massive chore because I didn't want to have this huge runway of getting my podcast to market as soon as the show ends and then work on post-production for 2 hours. So you would occasionally lose a producer because we would post hours as they would finish. And that was a huge advantage for us. And we never really got that much pushback from ESPN as to how we were releasing it. There was one guy at ESPN his whole job was digital, PG and Cini, and he was just marveling. And he gave me a lot of great advice on cadence and how to release things. I know it was a bit controversial, especially with some of our contemporaries, our strategy to break it up, thinking that we were gaming a system. I would say, no, we're not gaming a system. We're actually getting the rewards for the work that we're doing. Other podcasts do maybe 3 hours of content a week. We do 4 hours a day. Our episode lengths are just as long as your episode lengths. It was really how ESPN wanted to do it. I actually followed there because I was kind of old school Rogan model. Let's just pump out 3 hours at one time. It really helped shape and inform how I would go forward. I wish we did a little bit more with digital video because those were the very early days, but I wasn't getting leadership there from ESPN. I was kind of leading the way when it came to digital audio. It was really cool to see that be a successful bet. And it was a little frustrating too in that we found even the worldwide leader couldn't sell it, couldn't monetize the podcast. Matter of fact, they never figured it out. They just outsourced it. They don't actually sell their own podcast inventory. It's a shame because they've had properties like Bill and us in-house, and they kind of wasted that opportunity in ways that I kind of wasted the opportunity to leverage their digital video assets.
When you say we didn't build out the video stuff there, it was when we left ESPN, and I see it in the numbers now when it is that I have to do the excruciating task of looking at our accounting. The making of the video product, of the growth of Meadowlark's support of this thing is really expensive and really hard. And we weren't even able to do it while we kept the RSS feed, which was hugely important, from one day to the next, leaving ESPN and then landing somewhere else without changing your listening habits. The video thing, you guys have felt over the last 4 years, the rattling that has done to our cage just just trying to build all that stuff while we're doing the 3 and 4 hours a day.
I wish I was smarter back then. I wish I was smarter and more capable.
Well, Mike, it was hard to see, though.
Well, I saw the podcast thing coming. I should have seen the digital video thing coming. It's not like I didn't see it coming, but it just felt like it was too difficult to do all those things simultaneously at once.
It is. We've been doing it for 4 years.
You don't say.
And it is. It is.
But my main regret there, if you will, on the digital video front is we didn't have to do that part particularly well. That actually didn't have to meet our standard. We just had to be doing it more actively. I wish I had a grandfathered RSS feed for video like I did with audio. That wasn't the case. So that's the one misstep I made. While I made very good, bold moves on the audio front, digital video, I think you can certainly nitpick and say I made some mistakes.
You say that, though, but I would argue, and I'd be curious what you guys think of this philosophically, I would argue that the most charming versions of our show, even though we did this part well creatively during this time period, is when it seemed like we didn't know we were being watched.
Yes.
And so once you add the video component to what it is we're doing, and you let people know through social media, you're applauding their behavior, all of a sudden, everybody in here who knows that they're being watched, it makes it just slightly less authentic in a way that I didn't love that change.
Are you saying that I'm faking it? I mean,
not you. I'm not even talking about you, but in making the transaction, you guys know we've covered all the ways that I wanted to be careful about selling out because I really valued the chemicals that we had that kept it not only comfortable, but also so much more relaxed when you don't have directors yelling in your ear, when you don't have to worry about what something looks like visually, and then can just tell private jokes with, internet cameras that are amusing your audience.
I'm glad you mentioned that too, because another thing that I kept away from you was the actual directing on site in Miami. Charlie had left to DC, was going to start climbing in his career. We had Lorenzo, who was very green. We had a very small team in DC. I was also kind of producing the video product as well, giving camera cues, making sure that it was relayed sometimes through a
So you're producing us and you're talking to them at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm remembering only director and Lorenzo. I'm not remembering a third person involved with whatever it was, our Washington television product.
That was our Washington product, but we had stage directors in Miami. We also had camera operators here in Miami. And sometimes, look, I'm not going to relay a message to DC when this is a show that is so heavily reliant on comedic timing. So sometimes I just go direct to our camera operator and DC kind of falls in line. But all that's to say, you needed to feel like that wasn't actually an operation that was going on.
And you did a great job by not showing your hand because I knew it was going on. I'm not certain Dan did, but I knew what you were dealing with. You weren't just a radio producer anymore. You were dealing with a TV staff.
I learned how to produce TV.
Right.
And I learned right then and there that production is production to a large degree. A lot of the skill sets that I was leaning on when it came to the sonic experience of the show translated, whether it be communication, leadership, foresight, all that stuff, intuition. I knew where to put the cameras better than the camera operators just because I knew the show better. And by knowing the show better than anybody else, it also made me the most qualified person to produce it. Not to take anything away from people in DC, but they were kind of following my lead there.
That was such a fun playground that I do remember very casually mentioning to one of the very higher-ups at Pablo's wedding at a table, hey, it would be really easy to just throw our show on ESPN2 for 3 hours, and you guys would have an amazing amount of cheap programming there that you're already paying for. And I thought to myself, what an enormous evolution for me to be even offering that to this person when I was super enjoying the creative space of, nobody's watching this. We just got 2 people in Washington. Eric Rydholm, the producer of Highly Questionable.
Business at a wedding for you, too.
Yeah, I would say that's where I also realized while in that conversation, we are too hot for everything happening here. Connor Schnell has no interest in what it is I'm saying.
This is a fascinating story. If you've been following, they don't actually watch any of this stuff. They'd never watch any of this stuff.
I was going to ask you to name names, but you did. Thank you.
You know what's fascinating about that story, and believe it or not, it's not that the fact that the ESPN suit doesn't listen or watch what's on ESPN. That job is pretty all-consuming, and I can understand how someone doesn't actually get around to watching what they're putting out. The most unbelievable part about that story is look at your growth and your relationship with TV just over the last few episodes, hating your Fusion experience, going to ESPN, moving to middays, being out on the main set, to the point that we have to take a sabbatical from TV, a 2-week departure, no cameras at all, move back into our womb. It was that instantaneous, and it was that seamless. The move to DC had you growing in confidence, me working in concert with the TV team, had you come around so hard that about a year later, you're saying, put us on ESPN too.
Full press. I mean,
it wasn't even an opportunistic thing. I just was trying to be helpful on, we're already doing this. You're already doing a bunch of stuff with ESPN Radio that is just throwaway video stuff. It was more offering him an opportunity. I was only casually interested in. It was just like, here's 3 hours of programming that, as you can tell,
you were doing it for him, huh?
Is now very valuable.
Right.
It wasn't just him, though, Stugotz. I mean, the president of the company asked us to do a job for them, and now I was growing in the kind of comfort that I needed to actually want to do the job, because there wasn't interference, or I thought there wasn't interference, because all of that interference was landing on Mike. Throughout this entire oral history, one of the things that's going to make an appearance is some form of, I didn't know exactly the job that Mike was doing. He was doing it so well and protecting me from so many things that I have since, tears in my eyes, subsequently apologized to Mike Ryan for not understanding and appreciating the job that he was doing.
That was done by design, though, right, Mike? I mean...
Yeah, well, my job was to keep Dan comfortable, because a comfortable Dan gave us the best possible content.
The job is Dan.
The job is Dan. I am talent producing first and foremost, and the best way to produce my talent is to make sure that the grounds are most fertile around him for creativity and simple execution, because I know that one simple mistake, especially on the TV side, can really undo a good show. So making sure that we're clean.
Or a good career.
Or
Yes.
You realize the comfort I got from not that many people are watching at ESPN. The comfort, the security in, they're not watching what we're doing, so we can push the lines more, and I won't have to make changes until the complaints come, but the complaints aren't getting to me. They're only stopping at Mike.
Well, complaints did come because, keep in mind, we replaced Colin Kaepernick, and when you move to middays, in our afternoon experience with ESPN, we'd hear from affiliates, we'd get feedback. But now when you're in a spot of the radio day part where you get way more clearance, you get a lot more opinions from program directors.
Of course.
And Dan wasn't really on these affiliate calls. We'd only bring him into the more important ones, but quarterly I'd get briefed on how our radio show is doing terrestrially. There were a lot of good stories there, like, wow, our show randomly is huge in the Carolinas. And there were unfortunate stories like, look, while we were middays here and struggled enough with how do we establish a zig, we're not running counterculture to a full day's worth of coverage. We were the morning show out in LA, and LA was a huge affiliate for ESPN, and you would have thought, because Miami is similar to LA in a lot of ways, our show would have taken off there. It didn't. They hated us. The station hated us. The fans hated us because they wanted to hear their Lakers talk. They wanted to hear their USC Trojan talk. Colin was always very good about forcing the issue.
He was great.
When it came to the Los Angeles market, we were just kind of doing our own thing, and it really blew up in our face when it came to LA.
So it's interesting because I remember for the first time we really had to change our approach to programming, to content, to how we were going to do the show, because even when we were on in afternoons at ESPN and ESPN Radio, they told us, Miami, focus on Miami. Do Miami. It's the biggest market you're on. Go Miami. And that was easy for us. That was an easy transition. This was a difficult transition because I remember you and I having discussions saying, how are we going to cater to New York and LA?
I never gave that a thought.
I know.
Not one thought.
Well, we had to.
I had a conversation with Colin Kaepernick, and he is a Navy SEAL of strategic radio knowledge on how it is he can fake caring about something in Los Angeles just because he wants to talk to Los
Navy SEAL
Angeles.
now. Sometimes occasionally he gets caught on some of that
Walking
stuff.
around with a bowl of soup.
I would say it can be a bumbling Navy SEAL, but strategically for what executives want, can you plan your show so you're satiating Los Angeles is not something I ever thought about. You say we've got a program to Los Angeles and New York. We were huge in New York.
We were.
Our leave receiving?
Digitally, yes. And there were really good stories when it came to the radio ratings in New York, but you're always going to be compared to Mike Francesa there.
But the last book before they took us off ESPN Radio in New York, Dan and I, we had cracked the top 10.
Yeah.
And then they yanked us off that station.
That was Stephen A. Smith and WFAN play that they made as a radio strategy team. You guys say you guys were talking about it and it was challenging for you. I don't remember a single conversation where you guys came to me on, we have to do this for Los Angeles because we're the morning show there.
No, and that's why we were off, because
Yes,
we didn't
right.
do the stuff that Colin was so good at being able to kind of ham it up.
I mean,
I also didn't care, though.
You didn't care, but Mike and I had discussions.
Shit, which we could have done with you giving more of a shit.
Yeah, but I wanted Dan to focus on what Dan wanted to focus on and not be thinking about, any market in particular.
Dan's an artist. The only market he's ever cared about catering to is Miami.
Right.
And at that point, it had been pretty successful going about his work that way. It had proved to be a winner. So I don't blame him. It would have made my life a little bit easier. And sometimes it's pride swallowing, knowing that, man, I thought for sure we'd work in LA. But we didn't. Another aspect of Dan's workflow that we probably took for granted was right before we went to middays, Dan was as locked in on sports as he's ever been in his life.
Yep.
Super sharp, because why? He's taping Highly Questionable before the show. So he's coming out, he's already testing takes, and he's fully informed. He's getting research packets. Back then, I also used to write for Highly Questionable, so he came in super sharp. Now his work day is totally flipped, and he's doing the radio show, and he's not getting that prep, he's not getting the research, he hasn't been able to see how other people dissect stories. So I'm curious, did you also miscalculate having to do this before Highly Questionable as opposed to after?
The way that we did this philosophically starts with, because you mentioned sports, and that is not the thread that I need. The thread that I need is I really need to not respect the thing that I'm doing so I could blaspheme against it. I need to not respect television.
Sure.
I need to not respect radio. And what allows that zig is the fact that everyone else is in sports coats respecting what it is that they're doing. So you're noticing that I'm more informed with the sports stuff, and that is absolutely so, because what we were doing, not just on television, Highly Questionable was a really smart show done with really smart people.
That show is booming simultaneously here, too.
So I'm not merely in meetings with sports takes. I'm meeting with sports takes where I'm learning what everybody is saying around the horn, pardon the interruption, and everybody behind the scenes. But I didn't want to be in it.
I did.
I didn't want to be doing much of that. One of the interesting things that happened throughout all of this, right? My maximum comfort when our show started to go national was in the fact that I always had in reserve, no matter where we stalled out, Miami sports, Miami sports, Miami sports. Now what I had is sports. When I talk to people and they don't totally understand because they're not built in this world what the personality type is that can talk for 3.5 hours and have it be some semblance of entertaining for 3.5 straight hours. There's not a lot of that. We could do a lot of that in all of the places where I didn't have respect for stuff. And at any given point, if I've wandered 12 minutes too far on The Masked Singer, I could just swing back to Sports Story of the Day and everyone would have something on that.
It was such a great time for our show. It was such a big playground, a wide playground. I remember that because we're not doing afternoons now. We are in the middle of ESPN's day, both on radio and on television. We're dictating conversations that are happening on other shows that are airing after hours. And I was so thrilled because to be the show that is anti-establishment and be firmly entrenched deep inside the establishment was such a cool playground for us.
We found a way to rage against the machine while inside the machine, and for no one on the outside to pick apart that hypocrisy.
Right.
Because everybody knew the dynamic. We didn't fit. The salespeople certainly knew it. Dan Still's not doing reads. Dan will occasionally be the talent that'll say the worst possible thing ever. That's also a learning moment for me.
Meeting was fun.
Yeah, that was one of the few times that Dan was actually
I love a good radio sales meeting.
I had to go to that one because I'd said such bad things about
Again, I was trying to protect you and you didn't even see it.
predators.
Hey!
Dan, I'm like,
What are you doing?
Dan, what are you doing, dude? I'm trying to protect you from even naming it, and you're over there calling them predators.
I'm trying to get them on the air. I mean,
Bleep all of it.
Just bleep it all.
Stop it.
What are we doing lives for soon? I mean,
This is a perfect example of the type of talent that he is.
You're right, Mike.
I'm literally
This is
trying to
what we
push
live
him
with.
away from
This is it, yeah.
And he says the worst fucking thing possible. It's a goddamn headache every time. There were plenty of things that I miss about this era, though, too, which is, number one, we moved to a different day part. Our commercials got longer, and while that was frustrating, man, do I miss being able to create content within the breaks.
Yes.
I really miss something organically happening in the back during the break that we're just laughing through, Dan picking up on it and starting a segment with that stuff. Something that's kind of been missing from the show ever since.
I don't think there's anything I miss more than that from
the 8-minute commercial break.
Our present incarnate. I'm not talking about the 8-minute commercial break itself. I'm talking about the gathering where I get to just observe you guys wandering around in the wild, and Stugotz is doing Stugotz stuff. So when he's shooting sausage fingers over the break, oftentimes the stuff that's happening is funnier than anything that we could conjure on live.
There was some great content during the breaks. Dan would never participate. He wouldn't say a word.
He would just often watch. Yeah.
But he would sit there and he would write things down. And so sometimes I was doing it so Dan could hear me, so he knew to bring it on the air, because he knows, for the most part, I don't really care what we talk about here on the air. We were doing a show for Dan. We were trying to bring our topics, you and I, Mike, to life by talking about them in a weird way during the break.
That's how
but also in a loud way. And Dan was writing them down, and I knew he would come back from commercial break with what it was you and I were just
constantly
discussing.
Workshopping. Yeah. That's also how we would play really well-received rejoin music. We had our rejoins and then song, and I would be very thoughtful with how I do it, often sending subliminal messages with the set list for the day. But I would play a song and then playing a sound in the BPMs in between. And
show within the show.
Making remixes, and I would use that time to see if this would work, and we'd go live and we'd do that because it worked with our bullpen, essentially. I really miss that stuff. It really bred a lot of creativity.
I don't know how interested in the weeds and the minutia people would be on how it is that we do this show, but I would argue that in the history of ESPN television and radio, from the perspective of the hosts, there's been never as little planning from the hosts on what it is they're going to do when the microphones go on. They wanted rundowns from us. They wanted organization. We didn't know what they were talking about because we were doing 3.5 hours of improv that then became a structured thing, or what felt like a structured thing, at least in part because the producers had learned how to plan around us without making it look like we were doing too much planning, because planning in our case, I feel like, can be the enemy of natural stuff. It can lead to acting. It could lead to moments that aren't organic.
Yeah, and you guys are bad actors.
I prided myself on the organic nature of what we're doing. And not only are we bad actors, we do not have a good actor here, except for maybe Mike. Maybe Mike. I've seen Chris Cody freeze and have to read something 16 times once you tell him this requires you to plan something and then say it. He'll fall apart. But if you just ask him to be him, that one he can do.
One of my proudest things is that you guys would just stroll into the studio, we'd turn the mics on, and we'd go. Anytime we brought in a different guest host, their head would be spinning at the pace that we'd operate. But we prepared a lot because our show could go anywhere. And I would often tell people, how do you prepare for a show that can go anywhere? You got to be prepared for anything and everything. And that's loads of pre-production. That's loads of production in show. And production can mean many things. It can mean a bit of imaging, or it can mean, hey, let's talk about this process right here. Why did that go wrong? How do we make it better? The communication is constant, ever evolving, 24/7. Everything is feedback. Everything is production.
Just to give the audience an idea and take them really deep inside. I mean, there are times I'm certain Dan walked in there and he had a list of things that he was thinking of talking about, or had a list in his head and was going to start the show a certain way. And I can't tell you the amount of times until this day even where I will say something to Dan right before the microphones go on, and whatever he had planned, he changes it. And that's where he starts. He starts right there and he hopes it's going to turn out great. And most of the times it did, and sometimes it didn't.
One of the places where I have felt my aging over the years is, I'm going to go ahead and guess that on our first 10 years doing the show, I never had notes of any kind. Most of it was just rolling with whatever was in my head. But I will say, during this period and during the last 10 years, the very best shows are the ones where I have notes and never get to them.
Yes.
Like I'm just leaving everything in the notebook because a bunch of stuff has happened that is better than whatever it is I thought I was going to do.
Shout out to the show sheet. A huge, massive booklet that the baton was passed throughout the years. I took a lot of pride in the show sheet. Roy did the show sheet for
You
our
would get
show.
mad at us at times because we wouldn't look at it, right?
We wouldn't read it. We killed so many trees please. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
It was
thick.
It was much thicker than
Too thick.
Stugotz's personal record book.
Yes.
And you guys insisted. I remember there was one time that I'm like, all right, we're going to go largely digital with this to save some paper. And you guys hated it. And my resentment was such that I'm like, you guys don't read the hard copies, but you insist on this. But again, talent comes first, talent's comfort.
Dan and I
comes
were
first.
still using at that time instant messenger on AOL.
That's how we were communicating. His computer to mine.
You had your creature comforts,
Yes.
and you were married to that, and that's fine. And good producers fall in line.
Do you agree with Dan? If we didn't get to most of the stuff on the show sheet or in his head, we had a good show,
That's
right?
a good show.
It was
That's
a
always
great
the hallmark
show.
of a
Yeah.
good show. Like,
Yeah.
oh, damn, we didn't get around to that. Oh, damn, we didn't do this produced bit. Oh, damn, we didn't cover that. We had good stuff there. It's always the hallmark of a good show. So we're humming. We're doing good. We're clicking on all cylinders. We're navigating Dan's amazing proclivity to step into it, especially with sponsors. But it's all fine, in large part due to, and this part can't be ignored, John Skipper is president at ESPN. And I want the listener to keep all of this in mind. And I want Dan and Sue to keep this in mind because things start happening. The world starts changing around this era. It creeps in with the Colin Kaepernick stuff. The lines between politics and sports become really blurred. Probably the greatest example of that over the course of our time at ESPN. There were constant landmines around that. And then Trump's candidacy. Keep in mind, we had Donald Trump on the show several times.
Yes, many times.
Oftentimes, Dan
Became very close with his assistant. Yes.
was begging for him to run for president.
Donald, do me a favor. Break news right here on this show on ESPN Radio. Don't wait till June. Are you running for office? Are you running for president?
So I'm looking at it very seriously, fellas. And by the way, you guys have a great show. That's why I'm doing it. But I think you have a great show. I watch it a lot. But I am thinking about it very, very seriously. And the country is in trouble. We're being laughed at by everybody. China's taking our jobs. They're taking our manufacturing. They're loaning us the money. They're taking our money, and then they loan it back to us. We owe China now $1.3 trillion. Can you believe it? Trillion. $1.3 trillion. Mexico is not our friend. Mexico is doing a number on us, not only at the border, but they're doing a number economically. They're taking our jobs like crazy. Ford just announced a $2.5 billion plant in Mexico. I am looking at it very seriously, and I'll be announcing in June, and I think a lot of people are going to be very, very surprised. One thing I will tell you, if I decide to do it and if I win, I will make this country great again, because our country is run by people that don't have a clue. And our country really, I mean, it's run by politicians, and a politician, and I've said it for a long time, nobody knows them better than me. They're all talk, they're no action, and this country's in trouble. Our country is in trouble.
But we have no idea how the GOP is going to evolve, how Trump becomes this massive cult of personality, but the seeds are there. Initially, Dan's rooting for all the chaos. But I'm curious, Colin Kaepernick...
Regret that? Or?
It's pretty amazing to think back on just how naive it was to welcome an anarchist to political debates and think it'd be a harmless clown show. As you say that, I'm just like going over everything that happened after 2016, and I'm like, my God, that is as wrong as I've ever been.
In 2015, there was like an exchange like, oh, please, you have to run. Donald, please run. I love you guys. I listen to your show all the time. You guys are the best. You're the best. Like, it's a real thing.
And that's all I wanted to hear.
Less than 10 years ago. Less than 10 years ago, right. Dan and Donald Trump were showering each other with praise. But I'm curious, Colin Kaepernick for me goes LeBron.
That's an amazing sentence.
It is. I mean, Pablo Torre started his podcast just exploring the tapes and didn't even get to the one where it sounds like I'm begging Donald Trump to run for president.
Don, you have to. We probably should have kept going with that. We'd be in the cabinet for sure.
No doubt.
Stugotz would definitely have a cabinet position.
Be the vice president.
Honestly, I think we could get you approved right now. Least of their problems. Oh, damn it. I got to stick to sports real quick. Colin Kaepernick, for me, is a top 5 story in the history of this show. LeBron, all the Patriots stuff with Tom Brady being the football player of his generation, with the coach of his generation, and also on top of that, you dash scandal on top of it. That was a great story. But Colin Kaepernick, this was a story that probably challenged you guys in ways that you'd never been challenged before in front of microphones, and I'm very curious your approach to this, how our show probably talked about it more than any other show because it was dangerous. It was almost self-governed over at ESPN. It wasn't so much people telling us not to do this. There was a lot of talent that just tried to punt on it altogether.
I remember how great it felt because I knew, and I've always known, that I'm sitting next to this pillar of journalism who's going to handle topics like this better than anyone in our industry. So my strategy strategy and the way I prepared for that topic was probably way different than how Dan was preparing for that topic. I was confident. I knew the guy who drove the show. He's got it. He's got good opinions. They're going to be great. You're not going to hear this from anyone else. My job has always been in those situations to think about how am I going to get us out of whatever it is he's going to start and make it fun and make it funny.
Which for you, your process pivots a little bit because the start of the show was you were a traditional sports guy. You had different takes on Colin Kaepernick. You and Dan were pretty much aligned from the get-go, so it wasn't a push and pull type of thing. You might have spoken for Joe Sports Fan occasionally,
right?
But you were really there to get us out.
Yes.
And we learned this new character comedically, how we inject you into these segments, and I often use it as a device. Dan, more often than not, probably saw it coming, whether it's breaking NFL news. We use you often to get us out of places where we kept getting too entrenched that were a little dicey for us professionally.
So this is interesting for a lot of different reasons, because you say this story was unlike other challenges and we might not have been prepared for. That particular story I'd been preparing for all my life.
Yeah, I know.
Like that one. There have been any number since then where I have fallen behind because SportsCenter is calling and they want me to talk about transgender North Carolina bathrooms. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. What's the controversy here? Because there are any number of things like that that have made an appearance since where I'm not prepared for it. But I will say that something I learned that was both an illumination, and I say this with no ego, it was just a real blessing to be a part of it. I remember listening to Bill Simmons and Chuck Klosterman on a podcast, and they were as smart as anyone going and smart, and it seemed clear to me in what they were talking about that they were dissecting a sports issue for the first time that they had not considered that me and Boog Shambi had been talking about 10 years earlier. And Boog Shambi, particularly the way that he thought about sports and would then birth all of the people that I ended up gravitating toward at ESPN and were brought to us by Mike, and because they just wanted to be around the fun thing. The Minas, the Bomanis, the Dominiques, all of these people who thought about sports a lot differently, all of that stuff Boog and I were doing at the very beginning of what we were doing in sports radio down here. So that particular story wasn't one that I shied away from. That particular story, because I'm Cuban exile and all that stuff, and we're talking about freedom and black causes, I'm like, you've got to be shitting me that this is going to land in the middle of sports.
I love the entire industry is sprinting away from microphones, and Dan is running into the studio.
You know, he was preparing for it, though, because Dan was actually, for the first time, talking about one of these crazy scenarios that are actually playing out. Dan did several shows on what if Peyton Manning were a Klansman.
Yes.
For fun. Like, we just
I remember
that
those.
hypothetical.
Yes.
Just because he liked the challenge.
He would have started.
So it was really so good. We did like a week. We did a week of shows. I was in PTI's offices when I was doing that. I remember the way that they would look at me because I was saying, he's the MVP of the league. Who in the locker room is going to say you can't be the Wizard of the Klan?
I remember that feeling so dangerous, but I would just say, hey, I'm just following Dan's lead. I mean, he asked me a question.
It's a great hypothetical. I never dared to write something like that because the rules were different in print.
Remember the ESPN, the magazine, What If Michael Vick Were White, and how poorly that went, too. That was probably the second craziest Colts hypothetical that we had behind. How much do you think a shopping cart with an arm a mannequin arm attached to it? How many yards do you think it would get in a season?
We said it would be Dallas Clark.
It would.
We said if Peyton Manning had a shopping cart, it wasn't even an arm. You saw what Eli Manning did in a recent show of his where he's hitting bowling pins from 50 yards away. We were saying just a shopping cart pushed into the secondary. How many yards? It would have a fumbling problem, but how many yards would it get?
Maybe not if Peyton got it right in the basket. Look, we'll do this show again. I think it would have Mo Alley Cox-like production.
Really?
Spiro Didis, instead of screaming Mo Alley Cox, would be shopping cart with a mannequin arm.
Does that shopping cart make it to the Hall of Fame?
It would be plus 800 every day, first to score a touchdown. We take it every Sunday.
Mo Alley Cox is now over 9.5 yards per game on betting props. He would not be a Hall of Famer, the shopping cart, but it would be Dallas Clark.
Do you guys remember how we started talking about Kaepernick and this whole story around him? Because many people might forget the Miami ties to how this whole thing blew up. Kaepernick started doing this. He initially wasn't even kneeling. He was just sitting down. Then he famously consulted the teammate who had served, said, go ahead and take a knee that's a little bit more respectful. No one really picked up on it. There were whispers of this. Then he came down to Miami. And on the heels of the pig socks, the police officers depicted as
the
pigs.
Fidel Castro shirt.
Yes. And now you have this messenger trying to have a take that you support, a player's right to speak their mind and speak out against injustice. But also, Dan, you mentioned Cuban exile. Now, it appears, I know Armando Salguero had a huge, very passionate piece at that time. You have the message coming from a player that is wearing a Fidel Castro shirt, almost co-signing on the entire Castro experience. How did you handle that?
Before you go down that path, I want to start with some different Miami ties, because I will tell you, when I say that I've been preparing for this all my life, white bread, Hispanic childhood, high school experience, very few black people. I get to the University of Miami as a journalist, and immediately the way I'm writing about the team and befriending players on the team, I am getting a crash course in the black experience. Just very rapid, walking across campus with Bernard Clark and hearing for the first time, Dan, there is justice in prison, right? Just us. And he would hit that note in various forms for a long time. And so I'm learning all of this stuff as we go along. So once we get to police brutality and Colin Kaepernick, someone kneeling before the flag, to me, the most important thing there as a symbol, if you're going to take a snapshot of it, isn't the flag. It's the freedom in the kneeling. And that is something that Cubans don't necessarily agree with me on in Miami, because they're like, respect the flag. It represents freedom. And I'm like, no, the ability to protest it is what represents the freedom, that it still protects you even though you disagree with it.
Community stops listening the second he puts on the Castro shirt.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Right.
Not just
he starts getting criticized a bit.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Yes.
I think initially we also criticized him because it was a misstep.
Of course.
He was free to do it.
But you can be right on one opinion and wrong on thousands of others.
No,
I've been doing it all my life. You've never done it. I've been doing it all my life.
But I think this is perfect in terms of how different me and Dan are, because his approach was measured. It was from experience. It was from talking to people. I just got on the air that day because I was upset, and I'm like, who cares? So Dan is measured, educated. He's giving it to you, nuanced, all this stuff. He has the experience, right? He's been waiting for this show his entire life. And all I was doing was blasting everyone who has ever stood for a national anthem or not stood, and they've been farting, burping, putting in beds, talking to their kids, not paying attention to the actual national anthem, which you find at every stadium every Sunday in the NFL.
It took you a while, but you kind of
getting beers during it.
You found your angle there.
Yeah.
Me, I'm constantly getting feedback from ESPN, from Liam, our babysitter. What are the talking points? How do I know I've gone too far? What do I say that it's not necessarily in opposition, but have you considered? I didn't like my allies at that time, but I'm like, Dan, the flag means a lot to a lot of different people. And, I was just trying to be devil's advocate.
Put you in a bad spot, I thought, where
Hugely.
you put you in a spot where people, I think, might have been misidentifying your politics just because you were doing your job. And not just doing your job. I need to articulate this very clearly to the audience when I say that sometimes I did not know what Mike Ryan was doing. That is less so now. I know when Mike Ryan is now trying to push me off a topic, but because I am neither aware of the executive discomfort or care about the executive discomfort, combined with Mike's not actually relaying the discomfort to me. What he's doing is, when I start talking and he wants to run me off of something, he's trying to produce me by simply forming the argument or the show lane that will take me somewhere else. It's kind of like putting a shiny thing in front of a toddler's crib to distract it or something, because Mike is producing the show, but he's not telling me how he's producing the show. He's just doing the kinds of things that run me into different directions.
Sometimes it would be with a different opinion. Have you considered? Oftentimes, though, it would be with imaging or feeding Stugotz aqua.
Yes.
Like just giving him something that would slightly distract you.
Yes.
Having Rick Springfield bomb in out of nowhere and deliver his favorite colors. Or doing something that was pre-produced. We had all sorts of
layers.
Magic Creative Content was kind of born out of this stuff. Like
Correct.
It was all creative ways.
That one I knew when you were doing it. That one was a little more obvious.
What gave it away, Dano?
Well, it eventually became canon that it was his sole reason for existing was just to get Dan off of political.
I missed that crate.
Oh, dude,
it's so interesting that you guys remember some of this way, though, because I'm telling you that I did not feel either a hiccup of hesitancy or any great communal outrage from the power at ESPN. I really felt on that subject matter. This is why you guys hired me, right? This is the reason I'm here.
Cut to John Skipper in his own voice saying, yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I think throughout all of this, part of the reason why you're not feeling it, and we got to a point later on at ESPN where that level of protection, it would just go over my head and they would go direct to you. And the reason why they weren't really going direct to you wasn't because I was particularly effective in keeping them away, is I was the only person that they could talk to because John Skipper had handpicked you. And with that came a lot of protection that we would later find out we would sorely miss.
You talk, though, about protection. I wasn't fully aware of that either. You have to understand that because I'm always negotiating freedom and because I really just want to be left alone in a way that's probably, in retrospect, not the most ambitious way to handle all of this, I was really working in the comfort of many people in Bristol told me, you don't know how good it is that you have it in Miami because you're outside of the bubble. Eric Rydholm had that in Washington as well, where you've got more freedom because you're not playing in the hallways there and they're not just reacting to everything that you are hearing. But when you say the protection that I had, it's almost the opposite of how it is that I experienced all of that. Imagine how different this is, Stugotz, for me and Mike Ryan, where he's getting the daily fearful calls about whatever, and I'm like, this is why I was hired. Right. Not to avoid this, to talk about it. The reason that you employ me is because you, in some form, at least know who I am. The place where I lost protection the most, in retrospect, was John Skipper leaving the power position. But the place where I felt least protected is, these people don't actually know why I was hired, why I'm here, or who I am. Like, they haven't listened to the show enough to know that this is who I am. You're not going to push me off of this.
Yeah, but Skipper knew all that, right? Like, you didn't feel that protection at all?
In your defense, I don't think you were aware of it either, because if you were, you would have used it more.
Yeah.
That's fair, but I felt it. I knew. I saw their relationship. I mean, we went up to Bristol. Yeah, I could tell how much John liked Dan.
No, but that was after.
I don't think Dan would have abused it, but I think he would have pushed it a little bit more if he knew, like, the levels of security that John's cosign on our show.
But Mike, you have to understand my perspective on this. I didn't understand that I was in need of protection. I'd negotiated being left alone, and Mike Ryan's not bringing any of what he's dealing with to me. So I'm blissfully unaware of all of it, and it's how I prefer it.
Well, I guess citing your encouragement, Donald Trump runs for president, and then the lines between sports and politics get more blurred. Donald Trump weighs in on Colin Kaepernick, uses a cuss word to describe Colin Kaepernick, and the volume gets turned up on all of this, and you see extremism find its way into sports because they're using sports as a pathway to further that agenda. So fun times ahead for the radio show, and we lose Skipper in the process, and we lose all the protection, and then Dan realizes what he had when it's gone. So all that's coming up. But in the next episode, we're going to hit pause on the narrative storytelling of our show and do something that we haven't been able to do yet, which is really focus on all the voices that helped us get the show to where it is. We haven't really had Greg Cody's voice bless us on this show yet, and I want to be able to pick apart each and every individual voice, what our motivation was. So the next episode is going to be a pause on the narrative, and we really hit a spotlight on all the co-hosts and additional voices that we brought in.
Stugotz here. I want to tell you a story. I'm serious here. My wife and my two daughters, they begged me to buy a Peloton. So I bought a Peloton. And then I watched that Peloton sit in my office and stare at me. So you know what I did one day? I looked at it. And so I decided to get off my ass and I jumped on the Peloton because no one else was using it and I paid for it. I mean, so why not? Then I realized eventually that they bought it for me. And I got to tell you, way more challenging than I could have ever imagined. Peloton coaches are walking the walk. I love the coaches. I do the Grateful Dead one. It's fantastic. They have a sub 3-hour marathon runner, military trained athletes, a former college basketball player, and so many other well-rounded coaches on their team. All this experience really shows in their classes, which are never short of challenging, especially for me. So I jumped on it that first time. It was challenging, more challenging than I thought. And then I wanted to beat the bike, and so I kept jumping on it, and I absolutely love it. I mean, I'm the only one who uses it, but again, they got it for me. I mean, I had no idea. That's a little passive-aggressive, don't you think? Find your push, find your power with Peloton at onepeloton.com. Stugotz here. Right now, my friends over at Simply Safe are extending their massive Black Friday deal for our Le Batard Show listeners. Simply Safe is the home security I trust to keep my home and family safe. I've been telling you that for years. This is your last chance to protect your home at Simply Safe's lowest prices of the year. Simply Safe is a new way to protect your home that stops intruders before they break into your home. Old school systems only take action once someone is already inside your home. That's too late. Simply Safe's Active Guard outdoor protection changes the game by preventing crime before it even happens. Simply Safe is extending its massive Black Friday deal for our listeners. This week only, you can take 50% off any new system with a select professional monitoring plan. This is your last chance to claim their best offer of the year. Head to simplysafe.com/DLB to claim your discount and make sure your home is safe this season. Don't wait. This offer won't last long. Keep your home, your family, and your peace of mind protected with Simply Safe. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
It's the most wonderful time of the year for getting in on all the hoops, football, hockey action at DraftKings Sportsbook. In the season of giving, we're being gifted college football and basketball, pro football and basketball, pro hockey, almost 24/7. And here's a gift for all new customers. Bet just $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code DAN. That's code DAN, D-A-N, for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Happy holidays from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/bball.
Joined now by a return visitor, Donald Trump, with us on ESPN Radio. That birth certificate fiasco with the president, that was just a nightmare, right? We'd do that differently if we had to go back and do that over?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think it was, there's a large group of people out there that would like to see what's going on. And look, right now, I will say this country has bigger problems. Well, we have a healthcare thing that's in total shambles, and you can't get a website after spending $1 billion. I mean, we have some very big problems. But no, I don't consider that at all. There's so many people. I walk down the street, and people are screaming, keep it going, keep it going. They love it. Now, maybe they like it for entertainment, and maybe they like it because they believe it. But that is it was a very, very serious subject, and there are a lot of people out there that agree. So, again, no regrets whatsoever. I just think that I'm on to other things, and the other things are trying to help this country to do something. If you look at Russia, if you look at China, if you look at India, if you look at so many places that are just doing so well, and then you look at what's happening in this country, we've got some very, very big problems. And they're problems that can be straightened out because the country has such tremendous potential.
Donald Trump with us here on ESPN Radio. Who is your best famous friend? Among your famous friends, I'm giving you the opportunity you've waited for all your life here, Trump, to just name drop all of your friends. And so I'm wondering, who is your best of your famous friends?
You know what people don't know about me? I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of good friends, and that's not my image, but I actually have people that do like me, which is a little hard to believe. Well, I have a lot of people in the sports world. Bob Kraft is a friend. Coach Belichick is a friend. Tom Brady is a friend. And, by the way, Tom Brady is a great guy, and I hope that all works out, and I hope it works out well and soon. But Tom Brady is a great guy.
Well, hold on. So how have you experienced, if these are your best friends, how did you experience Deflategate? If Brady...
Well, I did experience it, and I go along with Tom, and, a lot of people are questioning whether or not they were actually measured properly, and there's a lot of different things can go on. But I can only tell you this, Tom Brady is an honorable guy, he's an honest guy, and he's a really good guy. I play golf with Tom Brady, and if he played, because I've won a lot of club championships over the years, I can tell you, if he played, he would be a phenomenal... If he played more, he's got tremendous golf talent. I'm sure you're not surprised to hear that, because... he's a great athlete.
Well, no, but every time you come on here, you tell us someone's a great golfer. I don't care whether he's a great golfer or not.
I do, Donald. I do. Is Goodell a friend?
I know him well. I like him a lot. He's had a rough year. There's no question about it. But I think he's a terrific person. He's a very good man.
Good golfer?
I don't know him as a golfer.
Wow, Donald Trump! Finally, we've cornered Donald Trump. But I'm just curious, as you've seen Deflategate play out in the press, I'm curious if you're friends with Belichick and Bob Kraft. Like Bob Kraft, that was a hugely humbling thing that he had to experience, where he goes from the NFL is going to owe me an apology soon to never mind, I'm going to run away with my tails between my legs.
Well, I was surprised that he did it, and personally, I would have never done it in a million years. I would not have done what he did. I was very surprised that he took the punishment without an appeal. I think you're always better off appealing, because if you appeal, you're going to get something out of it. Even if it's not much, you're going to get something. So there must have been tremendous pressure. I mean, I know Bob well, and he's a terrific person, and he's been a great team owner, if you think about it, with not too much drama. He's just taken that team, and they've done a great job for many years. Now, it helps when you have Belichick, and it helps when you have Brady, but he's been a very good team owner. I was very surprised when he didn't take an appeal. Actually,
Trump, you mean not much drama outside of the giant cheating scandals?
Well, no, there's a scandal going now, but I'm saying up until this point, certainly there hasn't been. For somebody that's been at the top of the heap for so long, I think there's been very little drama. Now, this has, caused a little bit of drama, and they've had a couple of things where there's been some drama. But if you think about it, they've done really well. They've had, lots of Super Bowls, lots of everything else. They've been in lots of Super Bowls. They had 2 Super Bowls that could have been 1. They could have had 5. But, I think there's been a lack of drama for somebody that's been in that position, which I give him a lot of credit for. I think Bob Kraft has been a great owner.
I think the last time that you were on with us, you told us that your biggest business regret, the transaction, I think I have this right, was your yacht. Was that? Do I have this right? That your yacht was the biggest purchase you made that you regret the most?
Well, that could be. I had a yacht, a very big one. It was Adnan Khashoggi's yacht. It was called the Nabila. And I was never a yacht person, but I'm a golfer. And golf and yachts don't work. So I buy this yacht, unbelievably expensive, 72 people in crew, and I never used it. And I said, what am I doing? And I'd have this yacht all over the place, and because I wanted to play golf. And at that time, this was before I had all these clubs, and I'd play at Wingfoot, because Wingfoot is a great place where I'm still a member. It's a great course, and I love playing golf. So I'd play golf, and by the time you play golf, you'd say, I don't want to go on a yacht. So I'd have the yacht sitting all over the world, and I'd never go see it. And it was a good day when I sold the yacht. So I consider that to be a stupid purchase, absolutely.
Give us the coolest person you've played golf with.
I played golf with so many. I play golf with they're all cool in their own way. But I play with Michael Jordan. He's a great guy.
Was there gambling, Trump?
No, not so much. I mean, hey, and let me tell you, Michael's a good golfer. A lot of people say, he's overrated, Michael can play.
What were the stakes, Trump?
He's a great chipper, and he's a great putter.
Trump. Stakes on the golf gambling. I know George's not playing out there for free if he's got Trump on the hook. What were the stakes?
He wants to gamble a little bit, but you got to ask Michael about that.
No, I'm not. I don't have Michael. If you want to call him and conference him in, we'll ask him. But right now, I'm asking you. What were the stakes?
He'll be happy when I say he's
Who won? I know, but I'm not asking you for the question that makes him happy.
We were partners, and we won.
Okay.
We were partners, and we won.
Whoa, who were you playing against?
We were playing. Well, actually, we had Annika Sorenstam in the group. And we had somebody else.
On your side?
No. Annika was on somebody else's side. And when we realized how good she was, we immediately all fought over her.
What do you mean you realized how good she was?
Best
She's like
golfer ever.
Hey, Annika was seriously good, and she is seriously good. She's terrific.
You're not going to give us the stakes if we badger you one more time?
No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to embarrass
All right,
anybody.
Let me do it another way. The highest stakes that Donald Trump has ever played for on the golf course.
Well, actually, the highest stakes are, I've made some of my best deals on the golf course, and I've gotten to know people. And I bought Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue. I built it, but I bought the site because of golf, because the people that I played golf with really liked me a lot, and I made the deal because of them. I mean, because of golf. And I've made many great deals, and these are billion-dollar deals because of golf. So golf, and, I tell the people at the Wharton School of Finance, which is considered the best business school, I say, you should teach golf at the school, because I've made many great deals on the golf course. One of the reasons I got Turnberry was because of golf. I was playing something else, and the folks that had Turnberry for many years got to know me on the golf course, and I was able to get Turnberry in Scotland, which is one of the great places, one of the great iconic places in the world, not just in the world of golf. So I've made many great deals on the golf course, big ones.
Stugotz, did you see what Trump just did to me?
Of course I saw it.
Trump, do you know what you just did to me? I asked you.
I turned it around.
You did? Oh, okay, at least you did it aware. At least I knew.
No. I turned your question around. I answered it like a politician rather than talking about the most I ever played for. I gave you an extra little spin. Maybe that spin was more interesting, but anyway.
No, Trump, answer that question. The biggest.
I flipped it around. I liked my answer better. I think it's fine.
Trump, the audience doesn't like that answer. They want personal.
Maybe they like it. No, I like to gamble a little bit, but I keep it down to a minimum. Number one, I've won a lot of club championships. I play well, but it's still not my business.
It is time to wake and take with Stugotz. 786-456-4837. That's 786-456-4837. Stu wants to hear from you. 786-456-4837. What's on your mind? 786-456-4837. Have a question for Stu? 786-456-4837. He's taking notes. 786-456-4837. But it is up to you to get them out of him. 786-456-4837. Call now. 786-456-4837. That's 786-456-4837.
It is Wake and Take here on 790 The Ticket. I have thoughts, I have opinions, I have notes. It is your job to get them out of me. I could open up the microphone, I could share those thoughts, opinions, notes with you, but that's not how we do it here on Wake and Take. You do the work. If I did that, I'd be lazy. And by extension, I'd make you lazy, because then you wouldn't have to do any work. So you do the work, you ask the right questions, and perhaps you will get those thoughts, those opinions, those notes out of me. But first, we interview Greg Cody.
All right. I'm a bad quote, I got to tell you.
You were clicks for Cody. I retweeted your column yesterday from the Herald.
Thank you.
You were out at Dolphin training camp. And Mike Ryan, Roy, Guillermo, Chris, they were all out there as well. What are you seeing out there that maybe excites you? Maybe gives some Dolphin fans some excitement headed into the season here?
I think they're going to be much better than people think. The betting over-under of 6.5 wins.
Cody thinks that every year, by the way. No, Cody, you think that every year. You are a Dolphin homer. It's the only team that you've been a sports fan of.
This is true. Wake and Take. I am interviewing Greg Cody.
I'm
Please
sorry.
allow the man to speak.
You're fitting out.
As a matter of fact, the Dolphins are the most bet over team in terms of exceeding the win projection.
Le Batard, 2 minutes. Penalty button.
Oh, hell out of here. Wow.
Jeez.
I mean,
you're lucky I didn't fine you $2. I mean, let the man speak.
I mean, get out of my zone, will you?
That's a good point. Wake and Take is a judgment-free place.
Oh, you're right, Dan. You're good.
Yeah. Because remember, we established Wake and Take's all about vibes.
Yeah, it's all about vibes.
We nullified the 2-minute penalty.
Okay, so anyway, more positive news.
I sincerely apologize.
Okay, well, it's very nice of you.
Good progress.
Very nice of you. That works in Wake and Take. It does. Yeah.
Your apology. Now fit in, please. Have the respect for us that we showed for you by accepting your apology.
Right. Now, listen, we start Wake and Take. I interview someone, and today, it could have been you, but I decided to interview Greg Cody. So when I'm doing that, just let the man make his points. That's all we're saying. Let's go to Ken on line 2. Ken, you are on Wake and Take here on 790 The Ticket.
Okay. If you could permanently enhance your life by 4 inches, would you go height or would you go baby?
That was a great question. Rasham.
Can I do 2 of each?
Oh, that's yes. You want to spread out the 4 inches?
Yeah, exactly.
No is the answer.
I want to be 5'11" and
no, the answer is no.
It's a very good question. You can only choose one, though. What are you doing there, Chris?
I wouldn't choose either, to be honest.
It's not a very good question. Yeah. It's a very good question for short people with small penises.
Well, I'm one of them. So.
I don't need 4 inches height.
I could use 4 of each. So you don't need 4 inches of height.
Correct.
By
process of elimination.
Right. We know where you're putting your 4 inches.
That's why it's not a good question. And you revealed your hand, by the way.
Oh, I don't care. We reveal these sausage hands every day. I mean, everyone knows. Anyway. Do we have other callers, Mike?
No.
Oh, they don't trust me? They don't think I'm going to take their phone calls?
They've called your bluff. You've been saying it for 4 months.
That is amazing.
Wow. We have reached the end of the internet when Stugotz looks up on sports radio and pathetically says, we have no calls.
I cannot believe that. No, well, they don't think I'm going to take their calls because I never do.
They don't trust you. We had a full board of calls for people just waiting to silently wait for an entire segment to pass just so they could clap at the end of it.
Right.
So the people want to call. They just don't trust you.
LaMarcus Aldridge.
Awful.
I mean.
No, he's an embarrassment, man. I'm telling you, Greg Popovich is going to get rid of that guy in the offseason. He was an embarrassment last night. He is so out of shape. There are so many times where the Rockets were playing 5-on-4 on offense because LaMarcus Aldridge was walking back on defense. He's bad. He's not a good player. I don't know what happened to him because when he was in Portland, he was fantastic. He is not good, Dan. He cost them the game last night, although they won the game. But had they lost, I'm telling you, it would have been on LaMarcus Aldridge. And the only reason it's not is because they won the game. Otherwise, San Antonio would be crushing him today, and I'm still going to crush him even though they won. So we're in the semifinals of this tournament, and we're playing a team called Orange Crush. And listen, congratulations on the victory, but I'm telling you, we're better than you, all right? Orange Crush. So next time we play you, be prepared because we're going to beat you by 10 goals. And it's a very close game, back and forth, 1-goal differential. And the referee is just making bad call after bad call. It's a running clock, Dan. They're 22-minute halves. She had to go to her rule book while the clock was running in a 1-goal game to make sure a call that she made was the correct call. And that set me off. I start getting mad at her. I start yelling at her a little bit. But in my defense, Dan, game was over. I accepted defeat. Hands have been shook, and we are going our separate ways. And the referee, who is just tiny, and she drags me back into it. I am going to talk to my team. She's walking off to referee her next game. She calls me back over to her, and she says, "What's your overall problem with me?" And I said, I don't have an overall problem with you. My overall problem is with the officiating down here in general. You are paid to know the rules, and you don't know the rules. And she goes, well, what makes you think I don't know the rules? I said, you went to look at a rule book during a running clock game to see if the call you made was correct or incorrect. To me, that's not knowing the rules. Do a better job. She said, you have this problem with all the refs? I said, listen, do me a favor. I'm upset. My team just lost. Why are we still talking? Why are you talking to me? I was walking my way. You were walking your way. She said, as long as we're standing on this grass, on this field, in this park, you're in my domain. I said, really? I'm in your domain? It's a public park. I have every right to be here. I'm not in your domain. If anything, I live around here and I'm paying property taxes. You're in my domain. That's what I said to her. And then I said, that Napoleon thing you got going on is not a good look. Record! Get out of here! And not just out of here, out of my park.
I have profound respect for the late Johnny Cochran, God rest his soul. But if it might be the cockiest thing that I've ever said. Christopher Darden and Marsha Clark did an absolutely horrendous job as prosecutors. Because if it were me, there's no way in hell Johnny Cochran would have beaten me with that evidence that they had. I'm telling you right now, I'm not even a lawyer. There is no way that you would have put 12 jurors in front of me with that evidence, and I would have lost to even to Johnny Cochran. I'd have won that trial. I've often said that.
I can't believe LeBron this quickly has been a league afterthought.
You made your own bed.
Yep.
Sleep in it.
Mm-hmm.
Jerk.
Yep.
He's a jerk.
They're showing you can believe in them, but you can't depend on them. See, that's the problem. Champions, it's both. You believe in them and you depend on them. Wannabe champions, you can believe in them, but you can't depend on them.
This is a diminished LeBron James.
They're also better when Kyrie Irving is off the floor than they are when he is on the floor.
LeBron James ain't bringing a title back to Cleveland.
He's going to be another one in a long line of Cleveland losers.
You can go back home, but the trophies stay here.
Who on Cleveland hates to lose? LeBron hates to lose, but even you have lamented he may not hate it enough. Golden State may not have lost, but they've tasted the champagne. And because they've tasted the champagne, you sort of like hate losing in reverse. You love the champagne so much, you don't want to know what life feels like without drinking it.
His career ultimately is going to be seen as a disappointment, as somebody who was so great individually, but ultimately underachieved.
Cleveland's going to hate him again. It's going to end with Cleveland hating him, whether he leaves or not.
I'd have won that trial. I've often said that.
This is as far as they've ever been from what it is that he went back there to do.
Sure.
We just got Danny Granger and everything is great.
I question the mental makeup. Are they going to be mentally tough enough when they're in somebody else's barn?
What about the coach who I've renamed Toodaloo because he is going bye-bye after this series?
Their chances of winning this series is zero as far as I'm concerned. The only reason the 8% is up there is because you're giving human beings a chance. After all, Steph Curry could have food poisoning or might get kidnapped or Klay Thompson might get injured or, somebody might have diarrhea or something. I don't know.
This is the first time I can ever remember in the NBA Finals where I'm talking about why one team is going to win, and everything I said is right. They can't play that style.
Boy.
They can't keep up with them. They're not smart enough. They don't shoot well enough.
I feel like the window closed.
Maybe we're overreacting. Maybe not.
Oh, crap. Not only am I not going to win the title this year, it's never happening again. He's not going to win a championship.
I look like I want the finals for LeBron James more than LeBron James wants.
You do. I agree with that.
Based on what we saw particularly last night.
That's deep and true. That is correct.
That is it. I don't get it. I don't understand it.
What has he done? Can you tell me? Big Magic Johnson, what has he done?
Well, he's a business person.
He's got AIDS. Did he do any business? Did he help anybody in South L.A.?
Well, I think he has HIV. He doesn't actually have full-blown AIDS. But.
Welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Excuse me. Help me out.
Welcome back to The Right Time with Bomani Jones here. We're going to be joined by Brian Windhorst, our insider at ESPN, here very shortly.
I'm good. Something got caught down my throat. Sorry about that, Brian. In the meantime, how do the Cavs not have a general manager right now?
Hello. No one is available to take your call. Please leave a message after the tone.
Hey, David, it's Billis. We're all set for the Patino interview. He didn't ask for any conditions on topics. I can ask anything I want, and I can go into any area I want. He did have a couple of requests, logistical stuff, so it shouldn't be a big deal. He'd like to do the interview at midnight, and he's going to be in the Carpathian Mountains, so I guess we'll have to have a local camera crew. Really can't blame him for wanting to get out of town with all the media attention. He did ask about our blood types, and he expressed some concern over garlic being used, so you might want to let catering know that he may have some dietary restrictions. He said bottled water would be fine, and asked that we make sure there was no holy water. He asked about the appropriate attire, which frankly I hadn't thought about, so I just told him business casual, open collar. That seemed to make him happy. He asked if I was going to wear a turtleneck, but I told him I'm not Steve Jobs or Mike Bray, and he got a kick out of that one. So, okay, that's it. So I'll just see you at the venue. And let's not let this out to anyone until the interview's done. Don't tell Le Batard, because he'll just make a big joke out of everything on the air. No offense, but that guy's stupid. All right, later.
And I'll tell you who else wants to fight. Dwayne wants to fight.
All right.
Dwayne.
Well, then let's fight, man. Let's go, guys.
No.
Let's fight, man.
No. Kill me.
If wants it. If Wade wants it.
Kill me now.
We want it.
Do it. I'm here.
Let's go.
Kill me.
They ain't scared.
Do it.
Wait a minute.
I'm right here. Kill me.
Listen, man.
Will you shut up, Stugotz? Mike,
I'm doing a thing. Stu, I'm doing a thing.
We were to play
Predator.
But I just talked on SportsCenter. We just talked about Colin Kaepernick. I didn't say anything inflammatory. Nothing inflammatory.
Just said his name.
Well, they asked me a question about him, and so I said nothing inflammatory. And a guy writes here on Twitter, Trey Tanner. Trey. Le Batard Show gets a mic, blabs about Colin, but won't allow talk about the Castro incident or the fact that Colin Kaepernick was silent until he didn't have work. How do you not see that this is 101, camouflage 101 on way to dismiss the messenger, way to dismiss the message by making it about something else? Colin Kaepernick is talking about black people being killed unjustly by police officers. Le Batard won't talk about the Castro incident or the fact that Colin Kaepernick was silent until he didn't have work. How do you not realize how obvious what you're doing is, which is not wanting to talk about the thing Colin Kaepernick is getting you to talk about and just you talking about Colin Kaepernick instead?
And it couldn't be further from the truth to say that he was silent until he was out of work. All last season, he was not silent.
I think he means as a starter.
Right.
I think he was until he was no longer a starter. And I wasn't silent about the Castro stuff. The Castro stuff was stupid. And so was him wearing pigs on his socks.
Yep.
That was stupid, too.
You've said that a number of times. So anytime you discuss Kaepernick moving forward, you have to address that, even though that's not the thing being discussed.
It's just camouflage. It's camouflage because you don't want to have the uncomfortable conversation, which is fine. I mean, I don't blame you. You're probably tired of it in general, but you never wanted to have it.
Greg, to your point, I would say he did it during an even more difficult time. He was trying to get a starting job back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
No doubt.
Yeah.
But the trouble with this whole, is he being blackballed? Is he being ostracized? Of course he's being ostracized, but the blackball argument is just impossible to prove, especially with a quarterback who's in that gray area of, is he good enough? He's pretty good. He used to be good.
But, Greg, the one that's most damning is Josh McCown cannot be your answer if you're the New York Jets and not Colin Kaepernick.
Right, correct.
That's the one that's most damning when your owner's politics are also something that would lend you...
Yeah.
That's the proof you would offer up, right?
I mean, that's
Jets.
I don't know whether that's proof, but it's the place that's most suspicious. A brittle quarterback who's never been as good as Colin Kaepernick.
I agree with that, and I would like Roger Goodell to step out front and say, I wish a team would give Colin Kaepernick a chance. Just that.
Well, he doesn't have to say publicly. He could do it privately.
But to say it publicly would be important, I think.
I think it would, but privately would be... I understand what you're saying. Say it publicly, support Colin Kaepernick. Privately, getting him a job is really what matters, right? So if he tells the owners, hey, guys, what's going on here? Are you guys telling me he's not one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the world?
I disagree with Cody on this, though. I don't think that Roger Goodell should be telling anybody what to do with their roster. Nobody. Not Michael Sam, not Colin Kaepernick. I think he should stay out of it, but if he's going to do it privately. Mm-hmm. Exert your pressure privately. Why would you do it publicly?
Well, because he's saying publicly that he doesn't think there's anything wrong going on here. Does he really believe that? Because it's hard to think that he really believes that when he sees some of the other quarterbacks being signed. 64, more than that, because some teams keep three quarterbacks on the roster. Let's say there's 75 quarterback jobs in the NFL. Colin Kaepernick, who just a couple of years ago was seen as one of the great rising young multi-dimensional quarterbacks in the league, now he's out of work. It stretches credulity. It just doesn't make sense.
Seattle was a weird one, too. Austin Davis. It shows you that all things being equal, they think that Colin Kaepernick and Austin Davis are about equal, and they'll take the one that doesn't come with a headache. That one surprised me because I thought Seattle could absorb it. I would love to have a
I thought that locker room could absorb it, and I would love to have an honest conversation with someone in Seattle about what happened there. Do they think he simply can't play anymore?
Does the backup role matter to you? Meaning they don't want to. You'll deal with it as a, if the guy could be a starter for you, but as a backup, maybe you just don't want to deal with the headaches that come with it.
I just happen to think that Kaepernick is a good deal better than Austin Davis. On top of that, I don't think it's all things being equal.
Right. Because you could say the same thing about the Buccaneers, who signed Ryan Fitzpatrick to be their backup. It's absurd.
Yeah, and there are some political ties with the Buccaneers, like there are with the Jets, that might allow you to read through some tea leaves. The Seattle one really angered me too, because Pete Carroll sort of got preachy and took the opportunity to make it look like he was, being nice to Colin Kaepernick. No, he's too good to be a backup here. He's a starter in this league, and then he signs a guy who hasn't thrown an NFL pass in 3 years. And if you can speculate by reading into what Colin Kaepernick retweets, because he's not actually talking about football, then you can see Colin Kaepernick was kind of bothered by it too.
The weird thing is it's going to take the team most likely to need Kaepernick is the dysfunctional team, the really bad franchise. But I think the team most likely to sign him is going to be the franchise with a backbone in its ownership, with a strong coach like a Mike Tomlin.
Well, that's why I was surprised at Seattle.
Yes, Seattle would have been a perfect landing spot for him, I think, for a bunch of reasons.
How about the Cowboys? Because Romo's gone, Prescott, you have no idea how good he is. And what if Prescott's not good? Yeah, why not?
In Texas.
Yes, in Texas. Yep. Jerry Jones, man. Show some guts. Seriously. Stand up and say what's going on here is not right, and I have no idea if Dak Prescott's going to be any good. He was good last year. I have no idea if that's going to carry over. And in the event that he gets hurt, I don't have to go to Kellen Moore. I can go to Colin Kaepernick. How about that? Be a leader.
Introducing Fat Man, fighting crime with his political erectness.
You guys get so mad anytime I mention anything about someone being black.
A figure who publicly looks down on citizens while on his high horse atop a soapbox by day.
Oh, young people, you just peacock preen with your ignorance.
And a vulnerable, blubbering mess by night.
I'm at a stoplight in my car, shirtless, tears streaming down my face.
And who's that riding Fat Man's coattails to the scene of the crime?
Hello, hello, hello.
It's none other than his lovable sidekick, Robbing, who is constantly revealing his secret identity for a chance to get into exclusive locales.
You sound like a big sports radio fan, so I must tell you that I host one of the biggest radio shows in the country. It's on ESPN Radio. I do the show with Dan Le Batard. We're on TV as well. So I have the ability to promote you guys out for free, for nothing, just for the reservation, to millions of people. Millions.
While Fat Man fights crimes, Robbing fights the truth.
You just say stuff, you let it fly, that's it. I don't care. I'll take stuff from August of last year.
You did take it from August of last year.
I'll take it from August 5 years ago. Doesn't matter. Going to get a rise from the audience.
That's really how you do it?
No, I'm teasing.
On this week's episode, Fat Man and Robbing battle with the Bad Joker.
What's the celebrity that has webbed feet?
I know Donald Duck has webbed feet.
Will Fat Man and Robbing triumph? Or will the Bad Joker finally succeed in killing the show?
I'm curious, where were you when you first heard that you'd won? And what did that mean to you exactly?
To be honest, I don't know nothing about fantasy. Look, I just found out about fantasy football this year.
Yeah.
That explains why he didn't attend.
Shut up! I think we've talked to you before briefly. I don't know how. At one point, you had gone public saying you had a sex addiction, right?
No.
Okay.
No, that wasn't me. That was another guy. Ain't no sex addiction. I love sex just as much as you love sex. Ain't no addiction. You like I'm a sexaholic or something? You try to get a confession out of me.
I feel like I've talked to you about that before.
No, that wasn't me. That was the other Sanders. That wasn't me. That wasn't me.
I don't know. I'm going to have to look this up. Again,
no, who told you that? Deion Warwick told you that? Deion Sanders ain't tell you that.
Deion is with us.
Sex addiction.
Trying to think of other Sanders
let's
that was
dispel that rumor right now. That's a vicious rumor, and it's a lie. I like sex just as much as the next man. or woman.
Bob Saget has announced that he is here and he is horny. It's the horniest morning of his life.
We were 3 comedians doing this gig at the strip club, and and Kevin Nealon and I went to go look at Mount McKinley, like 2 guys would do, like 2 bros. And the other guy, the other comic, was just in the trailer with the strippers all weekend. So, so I'm on. They're going to introduce me, and there's a stripper on stage, and she had pie pans over her chest, 2 pie pans, and then another one lower in her lower region with matches, literally just matches, paper matches, Scotch tape to the pie pans, and then she lights them, not even sparklers, just matches.
Just matches.
Lights them. She lights the top pie pans and she lights the bottom pie pans, and then she blows herself out, and then literally blows herself out and goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Saget."
Does Calais Campbell sound like a friendly cartoon monster? Go ahead and put it up on the poll, because he does.
Don't do me like that, dude.
I love talking to you simply because your voice is so great.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you.
Yes.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Yes.
Kyle Lowry is an old friend of the show. DeMar DeRozan, a new friend, and they join us together here.
Whose idea was it to walk to McDonald's and go get McFlurries at like 2 a.m. in Wichita, Kansas?
It was yours.
Mine or yours?
It was yours.
Mine, yeah.
It was yours.
That's when I was fat, though.
Okay, there you go. See, that's perfect. I'm glad you helped me out. It was 3:30 in the morning. We walked to McDonald's to get a McFlurry. It was closed, so we had to go walk through the drive-through window and knock on the window to order the McFlurry.
They wouldn't service because we didn't have a car, so we just asked a guy on a motorcycle to order for us.
Wait a minute.
You guys make how much money again?
We paid for his meal, though. Wait a minute.
Nice. Wait a minute. So 2 Toronto Raptors, all-stars, 3 o'clock in the morning, are just sidling up to a guy on a motorcycle by foot and saying, "Order us some McFlurries?"
Yeah, can you please order, can we get some McFlurries?
Colonel Jessup, did you order the code WED? Listen, I'm the judge here. You don't have to answer a question.
I'll answer the question. I answer 78% of all queries put to me. You want answers?
I think I'm entitled to them, Eric.
You want answers?
I want the truth.
You can't handle the truth. Any better than Joel Anthony could handle a basketball. Son, we live in a world that has walls. And those walls have to be guarded by men with guns. Kaboom! Who's gonna do it? You? You, Lieutenant Weinberg? I have a greater responsibility than you can possibly fathom. I have 17 responsibilities in my life, 11 of which are onerous. You weep for Santiago, and you curse the Marines. You have that luxury. You had the luxury of not knowing what I know. That Santiago's death, while tragic, probably saved lives. Possibly between 40 and 45 lives. And my existence, while grotesque and incomprehensible to you, saves lives. You don't want the truth because deep down in places you don't talk about at parties, you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. We use words like honor, code, and loyalty. We use these words as the backbone of a life spent defending something like Hassan Whiteside defends the rim. You use them as a punchline. I have neither the time nor the inclination to explain myself to a man who rises and sleeps under the blanket of the very freedom that I provide and then questions the manner in which I provide it. I would rather that you just said thank you and went on your way. Otherwise, I suggest you pick up a weapon and stand the post. Either way, I don't give a damn what you think you're entitled to. Kaboom!
Did you order the code WED, Eric?
I did the job
Did you order the code WED, Eric?
You're right, I did.
When's the last time you used a machete? Have you ever used a machete? No chance.
I did, yeah, when I was younger.
You know something, by the way, for the national audience.
Dismembering a
Hold on.
Yeah, when did... No. Okay. You know one of my favorite Miami things is, Dan? Are you familiar with afiladors?
You're going to just run over that joke?
Well,
Okay,
Stugotz
very
already
good.
ruined
That's
it.
where you are today. That's where you are today. Just trampling everybody. Continue, please.
Are you familiar with afiladors?
No.
Afiladors are like ice cream trucks, and they play like a sound, and there's a guy that screams, afilador, afilador, and he goes around your neighborhood sharpening knives and tools.
I hate those things.
It's amazing. There's no chance that exists anywhere else but here.
Guillermo is the most Latin among us. That right there is Guillermo. That right there is deep Miami. That is where like goats are sacrificed on behalf of gods. Blood is drunk on, drips down the chins. Like that is deep, deep Hispanic Miami.
The frustrating thing about the afilador is that he doesn't have a schedule. So it's not like I know he'll be here once a week at this time. So like you hear like, it's like an ice cream truck for real. Afilador, and it's like off in the distance, and it's like, get the machetes. We need to have them sharpened, but I can't get them in time, and then I can't find the guy. It's awful.
So what that is? So wait a minute. That guy is called the filer. Afilador is the filer.
Yeah, he'll probably file anything, kitchen knives, whatever you need.
I did not know that this existed, and I've lived here all my life. I did not know that this was a thing.
You didn't?
No.
I had one in my neighborhood when I was growing up. I lived in Westchester.
No. I had all sorts of strange things in my grandmother's neighborhood. All sorts of strange things. But I didn't have one of those.
How much is this coconut milk? How much is it? Because I can get a machete right now online, Gerber machete for $12.88.
Coconut water is not that expensive. Like it's $6.99 if it's a giant one.
Yeah, but look, you buy a $12 machete, you can have, endless supplies of coconut water.
Hold on, I want to talk about El Filador. Hold on. Ask the audience. I'd like to know the audience, how much of the audience knows this. Because I think part of what you're doing there, Guillermo, is I've never lived in really broke Miami. My grandparents have. And so I'm wondering if a guy who comes around the neighborhood filing knives, if that is something that happens, like that's not going to happen is that going to happen in a middle-class neighborhood? A guy coming around filing knives. That sounds like something out of Cuba. That sounds like something they would do in Cuba.
I lived in a middle-class neighborhood, and I had that guy show up at 10 a.m., which wasn't great when I was in college.
Do you guys dispute what it is that I'm saying? Because I think a guy who comes around the neighborhood filing knives, I don't associate that with middle class. I associate that with like real working class. And not making money working class.
That sounds like you're, I don't know, being a little judgy of the afilador and the community
wait a minute.
of the
I don't mean it
afilador.
like that. I don't mean it like that. I'm asking, how am I judging? Who am I judging?
Only poor people use knives. I have people can cut
Guillermo,
things for
rich
me.
people are not going to have a knife filer anywhere around them. Like, they're not going to have a guy wandering around the neighborhood sharpening knives where the's a lot of money.
But the middle class uses knives? I mean, I don't understand.
I know. I'm not saying knives. I'm talking about the sharpening of knives to do that kind of work. Work with machete. Work with machetes.
My knife set comes with a knife sharpener.
Oh, that's cool.
Do you guys think I'm wrong about this? I'm asking out of curiosity. I didn't mean to,
I lived through it. I lived in a middle-class neighborhood. There had to have been a reason why he kept coming back. Right? You wouldn't think that he'd make it a part of his route if he got no business there.
That's true.
Yep. Good point. I didn't have one in my neighborhood growing up.
Is this a Latin thing?
I mean, I've only heard someone screaming it into a bad sound system. Afilador, and it was the most. Oh God! When you did that, a chill went down my spine.
It's so exciting, though.
No,
I feel alive.
No, you're always woken up. Because that horrible sound system and the guy just screaming.
I'm just fascinated by this because I've lived in Miami all my life, and you are showing me a part of Miami that I had no idea existed, even though I lived in neighborhoods like that growing up with my grandparents. And I didn't see any of that. I saw, the snow cone ice guy for 10 cents. Yeah, like all that stuff. The people cooking a pig on their front porch.
Yeah, did you have the fruit truck guy?
Yes.
Yeah, because that's a Hispanic thing too. Instead of an ice cream truck, you have the
But
fruit
I don't
truck.
think there's anything else, you guys. Like, I've even seen some of the Santeria stuff. Like, I have seen some of the religious stuff that happens in some of these neighborhoods. And the thing that you're talking about right now is something that I have. Like, I don't know that there's anything else in Miami that you could surprise me quite as much with as what you just did there, which is that there is something in Latin Miami that is ingrained and known. And I'm sitting here saying, that sounds foreign to me, as I'm sure many of the Americans in the audience are saying that sounds foreign to me. You got to think about what we're talking about. You got a knife-sharpening ice cream man coming through the neighborhood.
He really is an ice cream man.
It's a horror movie.
No, it's great. There's music playing.
Yeah, it's
I gotta tell you, I'm on the site right now. It looks fantastic. It looks fun.
What site? What?
Oh, there's a guy who's got a site down here, thenewtropic.com. I mean, he goes around and he sharpens things for you. It's amazing. Look at the truck. It's beautiful. Guy was ahead of his time.
There is no way the person that was in my neighborhood growing up has a website.
These people don't have websites.
Oh, they do now.
These people don't have websites. Wait a minute. What just happened? I said this is a broke area, and you're saying, why are you so judgy? And now you just hit the afilador. You just hit him with no way he has a website.
The afilador doesn't have a website. He doesn't have like an @me on Instagram on the side of his truck. Get out of here. That's ridiculous.
You're right, Dan. That was judgy.
How is it judgy? The dude is 88 years old now.
Yeah, it's a dying business.
It is also, I'm sure it's both ways, right? Because some people use it to sharpen their machetes to profit from the dying business. Like, because who the hell buys machetes nowadays?
Some dude in my neighborhood, definitely.
No, the machete sales have to be way up. People use machetes here, Dan. People with yards.
Put it on the poll. Are machete sales up?
I think they are.
Put it on the poll.
I'm pretty sure they are.
Put it on, if you think the machete business is booming.
The only thing that can be hurting it is people like me that think they can make their own machetes from watching the show.
Again, and also put this on the poll. Is it pronounced, do you pronounce it machete? Go ahead and do it in your obnoxious, insulting white guy voice, Guillermo. Go ahead.
You're throwing like S's and H's in there. That's not how you say it. And these people give me crap about the way I say Juan also.
Follow one instruction this morning. One.
He does say Juan.
He does this with Juan, too. Juan. Hello, Juan.
Hello, Juan.
Cool whip.
Juan.
The guy's name is Juan Diaz. That's
Juan.
his name.
Juan.
They're making it Juan with a W.
Juan.
Hello, Juan.
Hello, Juan. You're showing off.
What if I told you that I could save you hours of your life that you'll never get back? That O.J. Simpson was a great college athlete. That he got married young to his first wife, Marguerite. That he had an affair with a white woman named Nicole. That he divorced his wife and married said white woman. That there were lots of racial issues at the time. That white people embraced O.J. That O.J. played some football, then retired. That Nicole filed for divorce. That O.J. killed Nicole and a waiter, allegedly. Why am I saying allegedly? He absolutely killed both of them. Anyways, moving on. That he hired a bunch of fancy lawyers who used the racial issues of the time to his advantage. That Chris Darden and Marsha Clark were dopes. That O.J. got off. ESPN Films presents a 30 for 30, the exact same O.J. story, just 8 hours shorter. 3, 2, 1. Stugotz here for the that's perfect. 3, 2, 1. Stugotz here for the Stugotz School of Broad. Take 9. Stugotz here for the Take 10. Stugotz here for the Stugotz School of Broadcasting. There's no chance I'd be working for ESPN right now without having attended the Stugotz School of Broadcasting. And take it from me, there's no shot you could ever work for ESPN without attending the Stugotz School of Broadcasting, too. We have daily online courses for men and women of all ages that'll teach you a hands-on approach to learning the tricks of the trade over the computer. All classes are taught via Skype by the finest Costa Rican communication instructors willing to do this for next to nothing. With master's courses in hot takes, mispronunciation, and not listening, you'll surely find a course that fits your specific need. At the Stugotz School of Broadcasting, you can kickstart your media career in just a few short weeks, months, or years, depending on how long it takes to receive your full, preferably cash-only payment. Check payments are also accepted, but strongly discouraged. For those choosing to pay via check, checks can be sent to our Panamanian headquarters and should be made out to my wife, who is the president and CEO of the school for legal reasons, which may sound strange, but don't worry about it. This is the way all the big schools do it. Select financial need-based scholarships are also available to students who recruit 5 additional students. However, those 5 additional students recruited must pay in full, or they too will have to recruit 5 more students each. Upon course completion, you should receive your unaccredited degree within 8,000 business days. Trust me, buddy, we're good for it. So don't delay. Be like me and call the Stugotz School of Broadcasting. The Stugotz School of Broadcasting will teach you everything you ever knew.
Whilst the Stugotz School of Broadcasting makes every effort to ensure the information provided in this advertisement is accurate at the time of posting, we will never update this disclaimer, and what you just heard may in fact already be completely inaccurate. Any opinions, hot takes, or lessons learned while attending the Stugotz School of Broadcasting may or may not actually be industry standard or up to all legal codes in any or all states. The Stugotz School of Broadcasting is not in any way accredited, and is in fact the loosest use of the word school in the history of education. It's highly unlikely that attending the school will benefit your pursuit of a broadcasting career at all. Stugotz never attended the school. Any and all testimonials and endorsements are strictly fictional and were written in the shipping container. To this date, there haven't been any notable alumni, and in all likelihood, there will never be any notable alumni. At best, maybe we can call in a personal favor and get you an internship, but that will set you back by large. If you opt to find an internship, you're on your own after that.
Thank you for calling Restaurant Reservations at the Edition. This is Jessica speaking. Can I help you?
Jessica?
Yes, can I help you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. I need to make a reservation at the Matador Room. It's a very important place to my parents, to my mom and dad. My dad actually asked my mom to get married there. So
okay, that's really nice.
So I figured with Mother's Day coming up, I'd like to try to get them, table for 6. I'm thinking me, my brother, his wife, my mom and dad. So 6 people at noon on Sunday, prime time, baby, if you could do it.
We're fully committed on Sunday for brunch, but we do have availability for dinner. I can give you like an early dinner, like at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, no, my parents are usually sleeping by 4, so that's not going to work.
No.
What if I make it 4 and just I don't invite my brother and his wife?
We just don't have the tables. I'm so sorry. We're fully committed. I just don't want to. I can't promise tables we don't have.
Well, can you find a table? Like, can you add an additional table? Like, I'll bring my own table. How's that? BYOT.
We don't have it. I'm sorry.
You sound like a big sports radio fan, which so I must tell you that I host. I don't know if you know who I am, but I host one of the biggest radio shows in the country. It's on ESPN Radio. I do the show with Dan Le Batard. We're on TV as well. I also host a show in New York City. So I have the ability, unlike anyone else who's eating there that day, I have the ability to promote you guys out for free, for nothing, just for the reservation, to millions of people. Millions. I mean, if I were you, I'd be looking at that reservation list, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, well, who are the 6 people I'm kicking out to let Stugotz in, you know?
Yeah, I can certainly understand that. That sounds like awesome. What I can do is I can give you my manager's email. He'd probably be more than happy to do that for you. Sorry, I don't really know much about sports.
Well, is your manager there? You don't know anything about sports?
No, I'm sorry. I'm like,
wow.
I don't listen to radio.
I mean, you sound like most of our listeners, to be honest with you. Is your manager there, or do I have to email him, or how do we do this? Can I speak to him? Because I'm not good with email. I'm I'm much better talking to people.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can convince him. Let's see if he's up
let's try this. Hold on. What was your name again? I'm sorry.
Jessica,
try this, okay? Is there anyone else there in the room right now? Anyone else? Anyone? Like any guys?
Yeah.
Any guys?
It's just me. How about this? How about I get my
There's no one else in the entire room? Because what I want you to do is just yell out the name Stugotz. Just yell it out as loud as you can, and I guarantee you that someone will hear you and someone knows me.
Yeah, probably a big fan.
Yeah.
It's just me. I'm sorry. But what I can do is I can write down your name and I'll give it to my manager so they can get, starstruck and book you.
What's your manager's name?
I have a few. I have one named Dara. That's our general manager.
That's not going to work. Yeah, let's go on to the next one.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm assuming Dara is it's a she, right?
Dara is a man.
All right, so now we're back to Dara. Let's stay with Dara for a second. Dara's a man, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a man.
How do you pronounce that name again?
It's Dara, so it's like with the D as in dog. So Dara.
Yeah, I don't know how to tell you this, but that's a chick's name, man. I mean.
Yeah, it's not the first time I've heard that.
Oh, it's not? Right. Okay, everyone makes fun of this guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Dora.
Okay. Well, I advise you not to.
D-O-R-A-H? Yeah, I probably shouldn't do that. It's good advice from you, Jessica. I probably shouldn't make fun of him, right? It's D-O-R-A-H?
Oh, no, it's D-A-A-R-A-G-H.
It's like my good friend Dari Nokawa.
I'm sorry?
I have a friend named Dari Nokawa. Just the name reminded me of.
Oh, true. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you want
is he a big sports fan? Because what we need to hone in on, Jess, you're going to help me out here, and I'm going to take very good care of you. I promise you. Are you going to be there Sunday?
Yes, but I am upstairs. So.
You're upstairs. Well, I will make a point when Dari calls me back with 6 people at noon. I will make a point to come upstairs, and I'll slide you a couple 20s if you know what I'm saying. Maybe even a hundy.
Okay.
Okay, so take down my number. It's 954.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want their email addresses. It's fine. They can call me, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've done enough work here, and I'm trying to promote them for nothing.
What's your name?
My name is Stugotz, S-T-U-G-O-T-Z.
Okay, G-O-T-Z.
Yep.
Okay, I will have them call you back.
Okay. You're an angel, I must tell you.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Good afternoon. Thank you for calling the Rainbow Room. This is Ryan speaking. How may I help you?
Hey, Ryan. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. I'd like to make a reservation with you guys.
Dinner and dancing?
No, I'm actually looking. I'm flying up. Your place is very important. It's a very important and historical place in my mom's life. She was engaged there, and I'd like to take her there for Mother's Day. I'm thinking like noon, prime time, baby.
Okay. So for Mother, and how many people?
It would be 6 people, if possible.
Okay. So for 6, I know we did have some cancellation. I'm not sure if we're gonna have any available for 6. I could definitely put your name down on a list, waiting list that we have.
Yeah, I was hoping that perhaps we wouldn't go the waiting list route. It's really important. Again, my mom got engaged there. They eat there all the time. They love it there. My family loves it there. We've been there a million times. So I'm hoping that you can help me out. You don't have 6? Is that the problem?
I don't think we really have anything. We've been pretty much booked up. We actually opened up our gallery as well.
Right.
So I'm not sure if we're going to have any availability for 6. Let me see what we have.
Well, let me tell you, I mean, there's no comfortable way for me to do this, Ryan, so I'll just do it. I'm a host at ESPN. I host a national show.
Your voice sounds familiar.
Yeah, and I also host a show in New York, ESPN Radio in New York, Saturdays with Stugotz. So if you could take care of me, I'll take care of you. And by taking care of you, I'll promote you out to 20 million people. I think you guys probably,
Yeah. What is your name, sir?
My name is Stugotz, S-T-U-G-O-T-Z.
Okay. Yeah, I know your voice sounded familiar.
Oh, you listen to the show?
Yeah, I've heard you guys. I listen to ESPN Radio a lot. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I do the show with Le Batard, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how about taking care of Mama Gotts here? What can we do for Mama Gotts?
Let's see.
I'm telling you, man, I'm going to promote you guys out everywhere, okay? On Twitter. I got hundreds of thousands of people following me on Twitter. We got millions of listeners, and I'm shameless, and I have no issue promoting you guys out. In fact, if you want to give me a free meal, I mean, that'd be even better.
So can I just take down your phone number, and I'm just gonna try to see if we can move some things around and see what we could do for you.
You got a pen handy?
Yeah.
Okay. It is. It's 1-800.
Okay.
Get me in that damn building. You need the numbers on that?
I think I got it here.
You think you got it?
What's your best contact number?
I just gave it to you. 1-800 confirmed is my number.
Okay.
All right. So 6 people. I might have to make it 8. I'm just telling you now. I'm not certain yet. I will let you know. But it feels like we're on to something here. It feels like, Ryan, it feels like I'm going to see you at noon at the Rainbow Room this Sunday for Mother's Day. What are you doing with Mom this Mother's Day?
I'm not 100% sure yet. Definitely going to give her some flowers, but I'm not sure where we're going to go out to eat yet.
Yeah. Well, 1-800-FLOWERS. Use the promo code Dan.
Yeah.
You'll get a great deal. I'll help you out, okay? I'll help you out with 1-800-FLOWERS. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. How's that sound?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so I'll see you Sunday at noon at, right?
Hold on. Wait. Let me get your number, Stu, so I can get in contact with you.
Oh, I thought we did that. 1-800 confirmed. All right, I'll give you my number. It's 954.
Okay. Okay. I will definitely be in contact soon. I'm going to do my best to squeeze you in here.
Now, do me a favor, okay? And I appreciate it. Don't use that number. Don't give it to anyone, okay? I'm a big-time celebrity. I don't want your friends getting excited. You got to listen, man. I give that number out. I got to trust that you're not going to give it to anyone, okay?
I'm not giving it to nobody.
You promise?
They're coming to the grave with me, Stu.
All right, so we appreciate. So you're going to call me back?
I will definitely be in contact with you. I think we should be able to squeeze you in.
All right, Ryan.
I just got to move some things around, but I'll definitely be in contact with you for sure.
Ryan, you are awesome, dude. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Eating House?
Yeah, how you doing?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I was hoping I could make a reservation with you guys.
Sure, for which day? And just give me a party size.
I'm looking at April 20th, a table of 8 at 8 o'clock, prime time, man.
Okay, so unfortunately for 420, we already sold out the dinner.
What?
It's an annual dinner we do every year celebrating the holiday, and unfortunately it's been booked up for about a week now.
Really?
Yeah, we are taking a waiting list. We'd gladly put you on a waiting list.
No. I don't want to do a waiting list. I mean, listen, I don't know. Like, there's no comfortable way for me to do this, so I'll just do it. Like, I don't know. Do you listen to sports radio at all?
Of course. Yeah, we're lots of sports radio fans here.
Okay.
Big Heat fans.
This is Stugotz, man.
What's up, Stugotz?
How are you, buddy?
Good, bro.
I mean, I don't know. Listen, I appreciate you listening. I'm glad you knew who I was. I don't know if you can help me out in this regard, though. I'll promote you guys all I can. But if I can get this table for 8 at 8, that'd be awesome on 420.
Man, as much as I would love to help you out, we have no room.
I mean, I just feel like, I don't know, like the people who have the reservations right now, can they promote you out to a national audience, to millions of people? Because I don't think they can. I know I can.
No, they definitely can't. They definitely, maybe they can, but the thing is, those are
who the hell are these people? That's what I want to know. Who are these people?
So they're guests, man. We got repeat guests that have been waiting for a year for this dinner to come back, and we got to stay loyal to the people, man.
Been waiting for a year?
We have some. I'm sorry. I wish I could help you out a little more, but
do I need
I
to
don't
speak
think it's
to?
possible.
I think I'm going to need to speak to the owner, man.
I am the owner, actually.
Oh, you're the owner?
I am.
You're shutting me out, and you're the owner?
I'm sorry, man. I can't do that to my people.
Well, what about this person?
I know, man, but we're booked up. We're fully
What if
booked.
Le Batard called? What if Le Batard called? I bet you if Le Batard called, you would let Le Batard in, right? You would let Le Batard in.
I'd have to let Le Batard know that he needed to reserve. Le Batard's been to the restaurant, man. We're big fans of his as well.
I'm guessing
we're booked.
I'm guessing if Le Batard called right now.
I don't think you've been to Eating House. I know Le Batard's been to Eating House. I know Mike's been to Eating House. I don't think you've been to Eating House.
Well, it just so happens that Mike got a reservation on 420, and I can't.
I know, but Mike reserved a week and a half ago.
Maybe you should kick Mike out and replace him with me. How do you feel about that?
I mean, if he's willing to do that, I mean, we can make that happen.
I'll deal with Mike. Just put me down, okay? I'll deal with Mike. Now, what size party was Mike's?
Mike was a 2-top.
What's a 2-top?
So we'd have
people?
That's still 2 people. Yeah, it's going to be difficult to get 6 more, man. How about this? What if we can make a little picnic setting up outside? We can bring a couple extra tables in, a couple extra chairs. You guys would be willing to do that? Maybe we can work something out.
I think that sounds great for the people that you're going to kick out of the restaurant to accommodate the 8.
That makes perfect sense.
Right, so I think you should offer that. Like, I think you should go back in the reservations and maybe call some people and say, hey, listen.
All right. Stugotz wants to come.
No, I wouldn't even say Stugotz want to come. This is how you do it, okay? I would say that, listen, man, we're overbooked. I apologize. We're overbooked. We will make it up to you. We will guarantee you next year 420. We will guarantee you a table for whatever at 8 o'clock. This year, though, I have to put you outside, picnic, the whole deal. I think that's the way you do it. Don't tell them it's for me. Just say you're overbooked.
That makes sense.
All right,
I'm going to have to talk to my business partner about this, though.
All right,
man. So
all right.
If my business partner agrees, man, we're fair game.
All right, well, sounds good. So I'll see you 420, 8 o'clock.
Sure. What we're going to have to do is we're obviously going to have to confirm with you beforehand. We're going to let you know if it did work out or not. But as of right now, we'll just put that reservation on hold. If we do manage to get some room, I'll see you at 8 o'clock, definitely.
All right. Well, this is the confirmation. I'm telling you, it's 8 o'clock, 8 people, 420. Confirmed? Good. See you.
Eating House.
Hi, this is Bob Saget calling. Who's this?
This is George Rapicavalli.
Hi, how are you, sir?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm good. I didn't mean to drop my name like that, but I'm at the Dan Le Batard Show, and I know that Stugotz had called to try to get a reservation on 420, and you guys were sold out and full up.
Fully booked, man.
You're booked. And I was wondering if there's any way that I could get a reservation myself. I mean, I don't really care about him.
Clearly.
I'd heard something about a table for 2 that could be available. Would it be possible for me to get one, but not him?
We do have a two-person table that was recently just given up. But we are also offering an 11:45 seating, so we're doing like a late-night munchies. I don't know if you're interested in that.
Maybe Stugotz would want that. Maybe, I mean, he eats late at night, I have a feeling.
I know. He wants prime time, as he says. I don't know how happy.
But I could have it 8 o'clock. I could have it 8 o'clock for 2?
8 o'clock's impossible, man. We're fully booked.
Impossible.
At that time. We may have something around 6 o'clock if we do get a cancellation, but, dude, we are...
What if I'm able to hire a really gorgeous escort for the evening to make me look like I've still got it?
I mean, that would make a little bit more sense. You know, then we just got to make a little tables. We can send it through.
Is there anything in the kitchen you could set up a table for 2 or in the restroom?
I mean, if you're into something like that, we can definitely make something like that happen, man. Okay. You're down to just sit anywhere, we can set up a random table somewhere in this restaurant.
You got a roof?
We got a roof, yeah, for sure.
Is there a main office? I mean, I just want to bring a woman in there and let Stugotz know that I got a table at 8 o'clock and he didn't.
That makes 100% sense, and I think that's completely respectable.
Okay, so we're gonna make this happen.
We'll make. You know what? I think we can make this happen. If you're willing to sit in the office or in the kitchen, man.
I mean, anywhere. I'll sit anywhere. Well, thank you. You're incredibly courteous. All the best, man.
Hey, such a pleasure.
You too. Take it easy.
Feliz Navidad, everybody. Merry Christmas. Christmas week is upon us, and many of you are hosting family gatherings, having friends over for the holidays, and you're wondering, how do I make this holiday time a special time? Well, you make the holiday time a special time by making it Miller Time. That's right, a beer with taste that you know you can depend on. No games, no gimmicks, just great beer for people who like beer. You put out the Miller Lite, you set it, you forget it, and everybody is all happy during the holiday season. You'll take that first sip, and you'll know right away you made the right call. Whether it's around the fire pit or around the cajachina, you know that Miller Lite is going to hit the spot because Miller Lite is brewed for taste. It hits different than other light beers with simple ingredients like malted barley for rich, balanced toffee note flavors and that iconic golden color. The original light beer since 1975 and still the best one. Making memories at year-end gatherings tastes like Miller Time. Go to MillerLite.com/Dan. Find delivery options near you. Or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.